We are officially live. Woohoo.
Yes. Yep.
And there's Anna.
Hello,
Hi,
Anna.
Anna.
Welcome.
I can't tell if it's me that keeps freezing or oh, it might be Alida. Well, we'll see how that goes then.
Dang it. What's going on? All right.
Your internet hates you today.
What's going on with that?
Technology is terrible.
Yeah.
We both love it and hate it.
Okay. I think I'm back. Okay. So, anyway, I don't know if anyone was hearing my story.
I
It was
wasn't,
very
so you
exciting.
can start over.
Okay. So, I have paint in my hair. I spent my whole weekend and this morning in my basement bathroom.
Oh,
It
goodness.
started as toilet replacement, but I got the old toilet out and the thing it sits on was crooked. So I had to get repair parts to, level it and all this stuff. And then I'm like, well, if the toilet's out, I might as well paint because that room needs painting anyway. So then it turned into painting the bathroom. And even though there's small rooms, there's so much trim. And there's so much going on, and it's the basement, so the ceiling's low. So I'm like on a ladder and I'm trying to get the roller like over the cabinet, and I'm getting paint in my hair and everything. And then I replaced the shut-off valve for the water supply. And the new one, the compression that was leaking. And so I think I finally got the leak fixed. The room is all painted. That's the only shower in the house, so I still have paint in my hair. And I did get spades, but not a shower. And I still haven't put the toilet in. So hopefully
Oh
tomorrow
my
I can
gosh.
install the new toilet. So one of the things I love about writing is if it goes wrong, it's just words. I was thinking about
Right?
this weekend. Whereas if, thank you, Anna. Whereas if, I like don't get the shut off switch properly installed, it could flood my whole basement, right? It could like,
Right?
and I don't think insurance covers DIY projects gone bad. So I'm like, oh no.
I swear it was an act of God. Like, I had no
Right, right.
control.
No, it wasn't me. I had nothing to do with that shut off valve exploding. Really?
No, no, yeah. That reminds me of
Yeah.
us messing around in our laundry room, and I was sitting upstairs. We were replacing all the laundry fixtures, and all of a sudden I hear,
Oh,
and one of the valves had blown out. So my husband's like running downstairs as fast as he can to turn the main water off so he can fix it. Yeah, plumbing is fun.
yeah. So fun.
Oh gosh.
So, okay.
Okay.
Yes. Shall we do writing stuff now? Now that
Oh, I suppose.
Yeah, we like to do a few minutes of chit chat just to let people come and settle, but we don't waste people's time with chit chat. So,
Absolutely not. So, do you want to do
yeah.
announcements at the beginning and the end, or just at the end?
Um, sure. Beginning and end sounds good. So, this Sunday, the 27th, I'm teaching a workshop on the power of subtext in dialogue at the Contemporary Romance Writers virtual conference. So it's not too late to get a ticket for the conference. Check it out. If you go to wordessential.com/workshops, there's a link to the conference so you can learn about the conference and sign up for that. It has been fun prepping. I was thinking about this a little bit ago, working on my slides. When you've been writing as long as I have and teaching and all that, you've got the information in your head, right? You
Yeah.
know it's all there. You've got the know-how, you employ it, you teach others, all this stuff. But putting it into a really concise hour-long presentation slash workshop, I'm like, ooh, look at all of that gelling. Look at all of that kind of coming down into this thing that I can then share with others. So I'm looking forward to that. And then we've got the webinar on
Mhm.
your opening scene. So beyond the hook, kind of like what I was just describing with subtext and dialogue. I'm doing a 1 hour totally free webinar about what you really need to get into your opening scene because it's not enough to hook a reader, right? The hook is cool, it's shiny, it's exciting, it piques a reader's interest. But what is going to get a reader to actually commit to reading your book is the rest of your first scene.
Mhm.
It's, yeah, lots of really important stuff. So, sign up for that at wordessential.com/workshops, totally free. And Catherine is going to join me and be moderating and assisting and doing all the great stuff Catherine
I'll be
does. So,
there. Yeah. That'll be
yes.
fun. I always
Mm-hmm.
love digging deep into a craft topic like that. You can't do that. I mean, we love talking about craft here and on the podcast, but it's totally different in a workshop setting where you're actually like focused on digging deep and learning details. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited. Very
Definitely. Yeah.
cool.
And everyone who knows me knows I love answering questions. So bring your
Hmm.
questions because there will be time for that. And then August 7th, last one I'm planning to announce right now, is writing to your through line, focusing on using theme effectively in your storytelling. That will be another 1 hour workshop that I'm presenting at the London Writers Salon. So if you're connected there or want to get connected there, look for me August 7th.
Awesome.
So,
It looks like we had a couple of people joining up. So we've got Anna, and I think I saw, was it Dennis? I'm sorry if I messed your name up, and Judith.
yeah,
So any time that you guys have questions, please jump in. I ask questions so that we don't have blank space. But Alita is here to
yes,
answer your questions.
so true. And hi, Judy. I'm so happy to see your name pop up. And Dennis,
Woohoo.
I know you were at the Inbound Brew Book Fair with me, so thank you for joining. Very exciting.
Oh, how fun. Yeah.
Hmm.
That event looked like it was crazy fun. I was reading your Substack post, like, oh man, I'm jealous. Like, I wish I lived close enough to like just go.
Hmm. Next year.
Pretty
There's
cool.
always
I
next
know,
year.
right? Must have to take a very long road trip.
Yes.
All right. Well, in the spirit of the webinar Beyond the Hook, I am going to ask some questions about chapter one slash act one, things that I've been working on in my stories. So, like I said, if anybody has questions about anything craft, doesn't have to be about what I'm talking about, please feel free to jump in and Alita will answer your question. But I have been working on this book for, oh gosh, a while now, about a year and a half. And so I'm on draft four or so of my full manuscript. But I've noticed that my act one has received maybe twice as many drafts as my rest of my book. So I thought it would be kind of fun to bring some of the things I've noticed and ask questions around that so you can give some insight there. So, my first question is, why is the first chapter so hard to nail? Like, it's done,
Mm.
it's great. I've finished the rest of the book and I come back and I'm like, and now I have to rewrite chapter one. And then I'll do a whole nother draft. And it's like, but chapter one doesn't fit anymore. Why is it that chapter one is continually a problem?
Also, the reason you just said, because you get through your draft and you go back and chapter one doesn't fit anymore. And I think it's because writers do a lot of discovery while
Mm,
writing. So even if you're an outliner or a storyboarder, you're still going to make discoveries as you write, as things
mm,
develop and evolve. Now, that said, you can nail your first chapter. Plenty of writers do. I've done it. And I think when that happens, it's not just a matter of lightning in a bottle. It's a matter of there's something about that opening scene or that chapter that is Loctite in your story, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
its its role, its function, its purpose, and meaning are are so solid. There's nothing you would want to change about that. And then the discovery and evolution that happens as you write on is happening in relation to that opening that you've already
Right.
nailed, that first chapter. Right. But that doesn't happen every time for any of us. We're
Right.
lucky when it does happen, but it's not just luck. And I don't know if you can always control it either. I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
think of like um Evelyn, my current work in progress, that first chapter. My opening is one of those where it just works and it hasn't changed, but I'm doing a ton of rewrites everywhere else. So,
Maybe,
that
yeah,
original, yeah, I think the original idea, the concept that inspires you, when
yeah,
that piece of it is really well aligned with your opening, that's when that opening tends to solidify and
yeah,
exist. Right.
makes
But if the
sense.
thing you're working from and building out of, that inspirational or conceptual piece at the heart of your story, isn't embodied in your opening, then you might find that, okay, you've got to keep going back and adjusting that opening, evolving it so that it works with the rest of your story.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that I've found that I'm tooling is not necessarily the plot, like what happens, the action on the page, or the character arc, how my character starts and what her flaw is, but more like how am I introducing her? How is the world building being introduced? And, getting every time I rewrite it, things shift either forward or backwards to allow more room or less room, depending. So in terms of introducing your character and introducing your world, and I'm writing urban fantasy. So there's a bit of it that's world building in terms of like, hey, there's magic, but there's also, it's a contemporary city, there's modern technology. Like a lot of it can be kind of taken for granted, and I don't have to spend a lot of time there. Um, but there has to be that balance, right, between introducing the world and that plot. And I think that's where I'm struggling, is I know exactly what's happening, but I don't know how much introduction before the reader goes, "I don't care anymore." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's a great reason to come to the webinar, right? So we're
Right?
going to talk about
Exactly. Because 'Cause you're gonna
what
talk
you
about
need
that
to put,
opening scene.
yeah, what you need to get into that opening to ground your reader so that the reader does say, yes, now I understand what the story is about, broadly speaking, right? I know what kind of world I'm entering, what kind of tone the narrative is going to take. I know who my protagonist is, and I've got a sense of why I would want to take this journey, what
Right.
the meaning is here, right? And that's what we need to pack into the opening scene so that the reader says, yes, I want to read a second scene. Yes, I want to read this
Yeah.
entire book. Um, yeah, so, with introductions, it varies so much story to
Mhm.
story, right?
Yeah.
It's almost hard to talk about that in the abstract, but one of the things to remember is you don't need a lot of
Yes.
introduction in that opening scene. What you need, what you must have, is give the reader a reason to care,
Yeah.
right? An empathetic connection. So even if we don't know the protagonist's story yet, we don't know everything about who she is or why she's there, we've got enough to say, this is somebody I want to connect with and care about,
Right.
right? I want to go on a journey with this character.
Yeah. And I feel like in my opening scene in my beginning chapter, I kind of figured out where that is, and then I hit chapter 2 and I hit that slowdown after the initial action where you're kinda getting to know her and living in her world. I'm writing in first person, and how do you give the reader a good impression of your character, whether that's it doesn't have to be, like, necessarily appearance, although that plays a part, right? Where when we're looking so quickly through her eyes or so narrowly through her eyes, I was struggling with like making sure people knew what her name was. Like, well, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like things that you don't think about when you're writing third person because their name's literally the subject so often. But when the subject changes to I, not having those clunky moments where they look in the mirror to describe themselves or they, do things like that when you have take the time to do a little more introduction. I mean, speaking specifically to first person, how would you
Yeah.
handle that without it being clunky?
Um, yeah. So in first person, you've you can one thing you can do, one option is to think about your narrator's position in relation to the reader, right? So is your narrator functioning like an authorial narrator in the sense that the reader kind of doesn't exist? They're like the theater audience who's beyond the fourth wall of the
Mhm.
proscenium arch, and for all intents and purposes, they don't exist. Um, or does your narrator have a particular audience in mind, and then the readers are sitting in the seat of or on the shoulder of that particular audience? So you can do some things with your
Mhm.
narrative there, such as addressing those issues. One of the openings I've used as a classroom example is Harry Dresden, the first
Mm.
the first book. In that opening scene, he's sitting in his office and the mailman comes late and knocks on the door, which is odd. Why didn't he just put the mail through the slot or whatever? And then there's this bit of dialogue about what the painting on his door's window glass says. And so you get the introduction to the character's name and also who this character is in this world, right? What kind of
Mhm.
role he plays, like noir detective, but with monsters, demons, vampires, whatever. Um, I can't say I love that particular one, but he did it in a clever enough way that he got away with it, right?
Right.
So so um yeah, you have to play with your story. What is available to you in your story's world? You
Yeah.
know, if you've got like a character first person narrator and you can do some grooming. So you're
Mhm.
in front of a mirror describing the character's face, but the character is interacting with themselves bodily, whether that's shaving or putting on makeup or doing a hairstyle or something. And even that you can get you're pushing that threshold of trite and hackneyed,
Right.
right? But then so is Dresden with his mailman.
Right.
Dresden's not the author, that's the character, but you
No,
know,
yes. Yeah.
yeah. So sorry. I feel like, well, okay, maybe if you give me more specifics, I can give you a better answer.
Right. Well, my character is alone on the page in terms of
I
like
think we have a
people she can
comment.
interact. Oh, yes, we do. Yes, but I can't read all of it for some
Sorry.
reason. Oh, there it is. It's giving it to me now. Beth, nice to see you. Well,
Hi, Beth.
sort of.
Right.
I really appreciated your latest podcast interview where you discussed the heroine's journey. That was a good one. I wasn't there for that, but I listened to it when I was editing it, and that was very, very interesting. I enjoyed that one.
Mm, thank you, Beth. Yeah, that was a good one. Yes.
I didn't know what to expect when she started talking about the heroine's journey, and then I was like, man, why don't we talk
Mm,
about things like this more often? Just the differences
mm-hmm.
between people's lives and journeys and the way that we interact with emotions and internal versus external. And oh man, it's good. Sorry.
It was good. Yes. Yep. Yeah. So, another thought that comes to mind, sorry, I'm still thinking about
No,
your
you're good.
question is like family and
Mm-hmm.
heritage, right? So instead of who do I see when I look in a mirror, it's where do I come from? You know,
Mm-hmm.
in Saving Annabelle, which is unpublished, but is in the first person, Greta doesn't describe herself, but she's talking about her family. And so
Mm-hmm.
through seeing her parents and her sibling, we get a sense of what she
Yeah.
looks like. Like she doesn't have to say, I'm this height and this hair color and this eye color. We get it,
Yeah.
you know?
I do wonder how important is that physical description? And I would love to hear from people that are listening too. Like, do you actually physically picture the character on the page based on the description the author gives? Because for me, I'm more interested in who they are and how they take up the space that they're occupying rather than their physical description. And I often don't keep track of it. You know what I mean? Like they become whoever I picture them as without all of that physical formation. So I wonder if we overemphasize that just that kind of description, the physical description, maybe more than we ought to. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that as writers, we need to give our reader a handle on the character's physical description. So we need to give enough specific details that the character is not generic, right? That
Right.
we aren't looking at a paper doll. Like, think about Anne of Green Gables. Who would Anne Shirley be if she didn't have her red hair and her freckles,
Mm-hmm.
right? And her freckles, I'm pretty sure that's a detail in the story, but now that I say it, I'd have to go back and actually look. Maybe I'm just giving her freckles because of her coloring in general and because she's a
Yeah.
redhead, but we know she's a girl of a certain age with this red hair and she's extremely imaginative. And when she meets her best friend, Diana, she envies Diana's raven black hair. And so we get this sense of Diana being this ideal of beauty, at least according to Anne through her lens, right? Through her point of
Mm-hmm.
view perspective. Whereas Anne sees herself as kind of an ugly duckling. She was the orphan.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't belong. She's too imaginative and, those verbal for the people around her and certainly for any of her peers. And so even if she's an attractive child, she's a child who doesn't fit in. So that ugly duckling type fits. And we can build a picture of her from that. And we can also
Right.
imagine her in later books as a teenager growing into her hair darkening into auburn, her figure developing, and we can see the duckling become the swan without it being described to us per se.
Right. And in that book, I feel like you're right. The physical description is super important because it is part of her character arc and because it's part of her, I mean, her whole lifeline through, Um,
Hmm.
I wonder, I
So
think this
Beth
is like
is
what I was saying.
typing
Yeah,
some
Beth is saying,
stuff. Sorry,
I
I don't
know.
want to interrupt you, but I want to get
No, you're
Beth's
good.
comment too.
She said, I'm not able to imagine the description, so it doesn't matter to me. I feel like sometimes I'm the same way. Like with Anne, I can imagine it because it matters. But like with other descriptions that I've had, it's like I don't nothing comes across and then it doesn't matter. So like if it doesn't affect the story, I'm not going to remember it. I'm not going to picture the character in that way. I'm just going to make them up however they're feeling to me based on the way that they're acting, which kind of cracks me up. It says, I know when
Hmm.
stars announce their choice for who would owe Jamie Freight. I don't know that one. Sorry. Lots of book fans went nuts. Oh, I don't even know what book adaptation you're talking about. Alita, do
Oh,
you?
Outlander. I know Jamie Fraser.
Oh,
That's the Outlander hunk. So,
yeah. People do see things differently. I think this is where, like, if you're going to have a character whose physicality matters, then work on their description. And if it doesn't, then why doesn't it matter? I guess be probably a question that you'd need to ask.
Right. And I think too that we don't want to present a total blank slate to readers. I think we want those physical traits that matter. Like, I don't know if if this Kojak reference will be lost, but if anyone remembers Kojak, or you don't have to remember it, it's even really before my time. But I remember seeing pictures like commercials or reruns or something. I knew the type, and it was the taller detective man with the trench coat, and he was totally bald, and he always had a sucker. It was like instead of smoking, I suppose. I didn't watch the show. I was a little kid, but
Hmm.
he always had the sucker in his mouth, right? So whatever else you imagine when you hear the name Kojak, you think bald head sucker. Like
Right. Right.
that's it. That's what you need.
Exactly. Yeah, just a couple of things that you can cling on to and for me, that's characterization more even than description, right? Because it gives you a slight insight into who he is and, you know, how old he is maybe or the things that he struggles with. So Beth
Hmm.
says, yes, you can be mad at me for not knowing Outlander. I just never got into that. Sorry. I do worry about getting details and descriptions right because when I read, I don't always picture things in my head. Will I write it in ways that satisfy people who imagine things in great detail?
Mm. You know, a while ago, um, I did this. I gave myself this task of writing descriptions of my characters' faces that weren't about their their looks, and it was really fun, and I felt very successful for my writing. And then I brought it to you and Robert, and we did a podcast episode
Hmm.
about that. Remember that?
Yep.
And I think something it can be easy to forget that character descriptions aren't just about physical traits, right? We aren't describing them to readers the way we would to a sketch artist for a police investigation. We aren't trying to get this map correct. We're trying to develop an impression of a person that conveys something about who they are,
Yes.
you know? So those couple of key qualities can give us that handle. So when we build our own portrait in our mind, it suits the character. It works. But, like the Great Gatsby, when Nick Carraway goes to visit Daisy Buchanan, and her husband Tom Buchanan is standing on the stoop in front of their manor or mansion or whatever. Carraway, Fitzgerald, right? But it's in first person. So Nick Carraway describes Tom, and we get this impression of him, and he describes him filling out his riding pants, these kind of job perp pants that would be tight, and the thighs just kind of press against that fabric. Everything is straining on him, and it's a cruel body. And wow, I mean, I don't need to know
Hmm.
what color the guy's eyes are to lock a picture of him into my mind because
Yeah.
that description does so much more than describe his physical characteristics. It gives me an impression of a person.
Yeah, definitely. I like that
Hmm.
positioning people in space that allows you to kind of convey the way that they would interact with people or, things like that. Rather than focusing on the color of their hair, it's more like how are they standing? Are they, how do they appear to the people around them? And yeah, very cool. All
Hmm.
right.
Yeah.
Beth says, I remember an interview with Daniel Handler, who wrote the Lemony Snicket books. He said he did not describe his characters with much detail so readers could imagine themselves in the books. Yes. Yeah, that for me is a lot too. I very much enjoy, feeling like I can just embody the character rather than feeling like I'm
Hmm.
thrown out because there's too much description. And I think there's a benefit to that with the protagonist that's a little bit more loose in terms of physical description, so you don't have as much like barrier to entry. depending on how people are. So
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
there you go. All right. Well, I don't want to take up any more time on Act One because we have plenty of things to talk about in the webinar, but I just had a few those are my few things and you've helped out. It's so silly how you know these things and you work on them and then but talking them out makes such a big difference in terms of especially me figuring
Oh,
things out.
definitely.
So, yeah. Awesome. All
Yes,
right.
I
Do you
agree.
want to run through those couple of events that you're doing again, just dates and locations and remember everybody you
Yeah.
can find all of the stuff that we're doing including the webinar and everything over at wordessential.com/workshops. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
Marie just
before
joined.
we
Hello.
yeah, before we do that, does anyone have a question? Did anyone come on like burning question or you just thought of a question you want to toss out there? We can hang around for a few more minutes if anyone wants to throw one
Absolutely.
out. Yeah, we need some like background
I know,
music
right?
now
Like
though.
background music.
Yep. Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? Gotta go there.
Right?
Gotta be a Bueller
Got
moment.
the summer going on. Feel like summer is one of two ways for most writers. Either you don't get any writing done because there's too much to do outside and with kids or with family and vacations and things going on, or you get all the writing done because there's
Yes.
time to spare. The sun doesn't set as early and the sun rises in the
Oh,
morning
I know. Isn't that glorious? I love
Yep.
that. I love summer days. In the winter when the sun is down at 4:30 and doesn't come up again till like 8. Ugh, but I wouldn't trade it because of the summer.
Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Yeah.
I
Yep.
I tend to be the one that writes better in the winter because I don't mind a cozy blanket and being in the dark and feeling like I can just sit and type and not bother anybody. But the summer always makes me feel like I
Hmm.
need to be out and doing other things.
There's that.
Yep.
Yes. All right. So, this coming Sunday, the 27th, I'm teaching The Power of Subtext in Dialogue at the Contemporary Romance Writers Virtual Conference. So check it out. The 31st, we said, right, is, no, the 30th, pardon me.
Yeah. Don't get that one wrong.
Yeah, no, Wednesday, the 30th at 1 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock my time. We're doing the webinar Beyond the Hook, everything you really need to get into your opening scene. It is free. And then August 7th, I will be teaching on writing to your through line and using theme effectively. Yay, Beth.
Yay,
Um,
Beth.
at the London Writers Salon. And then also August 9th, I will be at a craft fair. So if you're in the Twin Cities, Minnesota, I will be at the Meadery. You can come drink mead.
I was gonna say with a
Um,
D, right? The meadery.
mead, yes, Meadery. Uh, in not in White Bear Lake, but it's the White Bear Meadery here in the metro. And anything else? I think that's it for the moment, right, Catherine?
Yeah, and then just keep your eye out for when we're doing the next live because things are a little bit up in the air for the summer. Woo. But sometime in
Yeah.
August we'll be doing the next live, so just keep your eyes out and yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So, and go to wordessential.com/workshops to get links to everywhere you can find me. So, and to
All
sign
the
up for that
things.
free webinar. Yes. And then also we've got fall workshops coming up. Write great openings, more single session ones. If you've got friends and family who don't consider themselves writers, but who really want to write or tell a story, my Telling Your Story workshop is just for those people. That'll be coming up in the fall. So, yeah, stay tuned for more,
Lots going
right?
on.
Mm-hmm. All
Awesome.
right. Thank you.
Yep.